Assalamu alaikum and welcome to ADHD Muslim. My name is Ibrahim Souadda, and I started this project because I was diagnosed with ADHD in my sophomore year of college. And at that time, and even now, there aren't a lot of resources for Muslims with ADHD looking to understand their diagnosis, looking to understand their own mind, themselves, through the lens of Islam. Of course, there are wonderful psychiatrists and wonderful therapists that are helping many of us work through these issues, but oftentimes they aren't Muslim. And so sometimes the advice that they give us can actually end up being counterproductive to the spiritual growth that we're looking for. It becomes beneficial when there are resources that are tailored to your experience. And so I just wanted to create this channel, create this series of videos, create this community really with other people like myself, people that have ADHD, people that are Muslim, and people that have a concern for drawing near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that suits them, in a way that is made for the way that our brains and our hearts work. And unlike other people, we have some nuances, some idiosyncrasies, and those that know. And so bear with me as I figure out how to do this, inshallah ta'ala. So I just thought, since it's Ramadan, for me personally, I know before Ramadan, I had a lot of anxiety because, when Ramadan comes up, all the super Muslims come out. Who's reading a juz a day, who's praying all 5 prayers on time, sunnahs before and after the Salah, doing 1,000 salawat a day, going to the masjid for every prayer. The super Muslims are out. And that's not me. I'm not a super Muslim. I am a very deficient Muslim that is working through it. And like everybody else, working through it, but with this additional caveat of having ADHD. How does ADHD affect Muslims in particular? Right? Things like Salah, everyone talks about khushu, focus, presence, mindfulness. How do we kind of work through that? How do I work through that? Right? For me, what I really felt I needed to do, and based on the advice of my teachers, was really embrace the idea of small, consistent acts of worship. Those of us with ADHD oftentimes are dreamers, big thinkers, and have to do everything in the biggest way possible. Small and consistent are not two things oftenly paired with ADHD. We have big ideas that are elaborate with many steps, many layers, and we really sincerely believe that we're going to be able to do it. And then when we falter on that intention or that desire, what follows that oftentimes is an extreme sense of guilt. Not just like, oh, I feel bad, but like, I'm a failure and I'm never going to try that thing again. The problem is, though, in our religious life, telling ourselves that I'm never going to try that again doesn't work with Salah, because that's 5 times a day, every day, till you die. So what do? How do we become people that can work with small, consistent acts of worship? For me, the buddy system. I have really amazing friends and teachers that check up on me, that I tell them what my intentions are, what my goals are. My family, my amazing wife, my mother, I tell people what my goals are, what I'm trying to accomplish, and they help remind me of those goals so that I'm able to stay consistent. So for example, one of my goals this Ramadan was to read just 1 page of Quran a day. Just 1 page. I know people that are reading a juz, some people are reading 2 juz, some people are trying to khatam the Quran twice this Ramadan. For me, 1 page. That's all. I almost missed that page today. But because of the buddy system, because I told my wife that I really wanted to make sure that I re-engaged with the Quran this Ramadan, she reminded me today after Dhuhr, hey, I know you're busy, I know you've got work to do, don't forget to read a little bit today. I finished up what I was doing, boom, right there, read at least a page, alhamdulillah. So the buddy system is something that ends up being something really beneficial for me. And there's precedents for this in Islam, right? That suhbah, companionship, good friends, brotherhood and sisterhood is an integral part of how we make it through this life as good Muslims. And so just implementing that, not just as something that's like a social activity or, you know, having good friends that you go to the movies with or go do an activity with, but really bringing in your friends and your family into your personal worship with Allah and allowing them to be there for you and to be a support in a lot of ways. So that's something that helps me, the buddy system. And short, consistent acts of worship. Setting my goals to something that is achievable. My goal might be to read 1 page a day. That doesn't mean that's necessarily all I'm going to do. It just means that in my mind, I'm setting up the expectation that I only have to read 1 page a day so that it's something that's achievable and leaves room for more. I think one of the things that I really hold on to as a Muslim with ADHD is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he talks about actions being by intentions. Oftentimes we want to do a lot. You know, we tell ourselves, we compare ourselves to other people and what they're doing, and we want to be able to keep up. And it's hard feeling like you can't. But intentions are everything. Our results are with Allah. We set our intentions, we know what we want to do, we aspire for greatness, we have big, lofty intentions. And then we do what we can. And with that, inshallah ta'ala, if our actions are accepted by Allah, we will have the ultimate goal of drawing nearer to Him despite the quantity of worship we do. If the quality is there and it's consistent, for us that's better than attempting large quantities of worship and not doing them well, if that, and just not faltering on them and being able to stay consistent in them. So for us, that's something that's a really big deal. Obviously with Ramadan comes more worship than usual. The big one's Taraweeh, every night. Some masjids are doing 8 rak'ahs, some masjids are doing 20 rak'ahs. For those of us with ADHD, more than 4 rak'ahs can become overwhelming. And so what are some things that we can do to help bring focus into our space? I would love to hear from you guys. For me, one of the things that I've really been practicing recently is finding a particular part of the Salah that I can focus my brain on, breaking the Salah up into parts and picking one thing that is consistent throughout the Salah that I'm able to put my attention and my focus on. So for me, it's when we say Allahu Akbar. Because it's a part of every movement of the Salah, starting from the beginning, I hone in all of my mental energy on that first Allahu Akbar. As everyone is making wudu and preparing, I sit with myself, I align myself with Allah, and I put all of my mental power and all of my focus, all of my attention on that first Allahu Akbar. Not going to hold you. I might zone out. After that Allahu Akbar, if I'm not the one leading, if I'm not the one praying by myself, if I'm following behind an imam, after Fatiha, you might lose me for a little bit. The blessing of the Salah is that the very next time we make a movement, there's another Allahu Akbar. So I find this one thing that I can focus my energy on. For you, it might be something else. For me, Allahu Akbar, that Allahu Akbar is everything for me. That's my anchor in the Salah that I use to help keep me focused as much as possible throughout the prayer. I think the last thing that I find to be like really important to address with myself is the guilt that comes with not worshiping the way you know you're supposed to, the way that you want to. Not being able to do it brings a significant amount of guilt. And it's not just like, oh, I feel bad. It becomes almost like a crushing weight sometimes. And we talked a little bit about it earlier, but I think for me, one of the things that comes to my mind is a saying of Imam Ghazali where he talks about remembrance of Allah. He says, don't abandon the dhikr of Allah because your heart is not present. For us with ADHD, it starts in our brain not being present, and that results in our heart not being present. So he says, don't abandon the dhikr of Allah, the remembrance of Allah, when your heart is not present. And then he says that your heedlessness from the remembrance of Allah is worse than your heedlessness in the remembrance of Allah. Meaning what? That your heart not being present while you're saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar is better for you than not doing it at all. That at least on the tongue, you're saying it. And what we know in the religion is that the tongue is directly connected to the heart. And so you may not be present now. You might not feel it now. But if we just keep saying it, and this is kind of like the fake it till you make it concept. If we just keep saying it, even if our heart's not present, that's better for us than not doing it at all. I hold on to that when the guilt settles in. Because the guilt tells me, oh, you didn't pray on time? Delay the prayer even more. The guilt tells me, oh, you missed Taraweeh today? Just forget it. Don't go to Taraweeh. And then it ends up being a week before I'm back at Taraweeh. So before that can happen, I remind myself of this thing that Imam Ghazali told us, that it's better for me to do the act of worship to the best of my ability with all of its deficiencies. That it's better for me to do that than to leave it altogether. I think lastly, one of the things that I hold on to is the ayah in the Quran where Allah talks about, verily after hardship comes ease. If you're a Muslim with ADHD, every day life feels hard. We generally don't have easy days. But I know it's coming. Whether it's in this life or the next, the ease will come. And you'll find it. Those of us with ADHD happen to be just attuned to things that are around us, whether it's the sunrise or a breeze. We find ourselves being caught by our senses and remembering Allah. It's a beautiful thing that comes with having ADHD. For me, those are the moments of ease. In a difficult day where I'm maybe faltering on some tasks that I need to do, or not being able to hit all of my goals, those moments, for me, that's the ease. And so I think it's just really important for us to hold on to that and to find those moments of ease throughout the day and use those as our anchors and our center points for tomorrow. Lastly, I just want to remind everyone that this Ramadan, I'm working with an organization called Nasiha, helping them raise funds for the work that they're doing this Ramadan. Those of us with ADHD know that some days are really hard. And in those moments, we don't always know who to talk to. One of the things we talked about earlier in the video was the idea of modern psychology and therapy working with non-Muslims can sometimes have a negative effect on our ability to grow spiritually. Not always, but sometimes their advice doesn't always fit with our way of life. And so an organization like Nasiha doing things like offering a 24/7 mental health hotline is beyond helpful. Sometimes it can be life-saving. They've taken over 12,000 calls already and more every day. They need us to support them. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Inshallah ta'ala, with your help, we'll be able to create a community of people that are struggling with ADHD but striving to draw near to Allah. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll be able to help each other achieve that goal. Inshallah, stay tuned for more videos. Bear with me. This is not something I do usually. I'm not in front of the camera, I'm behind it. Forgive me for my shortcomings. Whatever good and whatever benefit is from Allah and Allah alone, from my teachers and what they've given me, and whatever shortcomings that are in the video are from myself. I have a lot of room to grow. Please don't hesitate to gently remind me in the comments. But Allah bless you all. Hopefully I'll see you guys soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.